Oh boy, Millie finally got some character development in the end of Season 2. It only took all of Season 2 and most of Season 1, but better late than never, you know? With how long we've been waiting for this character development to finally happen, I sure hope it doesn't end up being the single worst thing I've ever seen in my entire existence on this planet. In an unrelated note, this is the single worst thing I've ever seen in my entire existence on this planet. Dear God, where do I even start with this mess? How are we living in the timeline where Vivzie hopped out of bed, sniffed enough pottery glaze to game end an elephant, and wrote the first draft of this episode in the same 10-second span, and then forgot to amend that draft in any way, shape, or form for over a year? You have a creative process, yes? People you work with, take ideas from. How in the ever-loving sand-crabbing Christ did none of your very hard-working staff tell you that this is not how you write a character? I know it's not how you write a character, and I didn't go to any character writing school. I just used my brain. For those who haven't watched the Season 2 finale, I'm sure you're confused as to why I'm so upset, so let me elaborate a little bit. All Millie has done this entire season is save Moxie once, attempt to eat a snake and fail because the snake had plot armor, and get beaten to death by an actual furry. So now for the great reveal. Her penultimate act is becoming pregnant. Why? Why is the culmination of the only woman character you take seriously becoming pregnant? This is embarrassing. Did your child write this? Woman, how do you fail the Bechdel test? You know, the thing Rick and Morty spent 5 minutes memeing on and defeated with half a scene, and you legitimately can't overcome it. You never have. Everything Millie does is surrounded by or about her husband. The only time she's seen and he isn't is when he's kidnapped or when she's in a short once. This is the exact same for Stella and Stolas and Octavia and Stolas and Veronica and Blitz. No, not that one. Also, I think her name's Verosica. The entire season finale was a mess, and it feels like Millie was just tacked on because they forgot she was supposed to be a character. Vivzie knew Millie had to finally do something after T-posing in the background of every single episode this season, bar maybe 2 of them, and both of them were written by Brandon, which, don't get me wrong, she's still background fodder this episode. That's all she's ever allowed to be. She's a whammon, not my words, literally Vivziepops. But let's slow down just a smidge and go over why this is such an absolute dog shit bit of writing for her character. So the entire point is that she doesn't want to tell Moxie, the dear human who I honestly don't really care for because his voice is a bit annoying and I find the man boring. But my God, how forced is Millie keeping her pregnancy a secret from him and the rest of her team? What possible reason could you have for thinking anybody that you know would be in any way upset with this development? I'm not certain that Millie has said a single word to Loona since the pilot, so I can only assume that Luna's reaction is going to be disinterest. But Blitz loves and supports the shit out of her, so knowing that she's pregnant will probably just make him ooh-woo so hard he fucking detonates. And Moxie's the most supportive husband on Hell's Rings. If you tell him you are prangent, he's going to be ecstatic. What has Moxie ever done since knowing him that has made you think otherwise? It is such a weird plot point that they're going with. It's to make tension artificially, but it doesn't make any sense. Millie, the woman who knows these men like they're her family, is convinced that anyone is going to react in any way that isn't simply joy at determining that she's going to have a child. Also, Stolas just kind of detects that she's poggers because I guess birds can just smell these things sometimes. What? Is that a thing owls can do? Ignoring that this entire plotline is more forced than the return of Palpatine. Guess he didn't explode into pieces quite enough the first time, or the second time. Millie's entire future is now this. There is no more badass Millie. That character hasn't been seen in years, months, if we're being super generous. And now she's simply going to be the stay-at-home mom who's like, oh, I don't want to tell my husband who will support my every breath that I'm having his child. They seem to be playing on the fact that she doesn't want to be preggo, which if so, there are ways to prevent getting proggy, and I guess you just forgot all of those. This is hell. They definitely make a not becoming grognant potion. All of the ideas with Millie are just sort of half-baked this episode. Again, it feels like it's a first draft, and that's not a surprise to me. I followed Vivzie's work for years at this point, but it's still a terrible shame that this is somehow the best they can come up with for a character they've been writing for over half a decade. There are so many interesting plots you can use for a character character like Millie. Have Moxie's father put Moxie in the hospital. Have her doing some fun activity with Blitz, maybe even to escape Moxie because he's being clingy. Have her display that her relationship with Moxie isn't perfect and that she regrets some things about marrying him, only to have her immediately realize that these gripes mean nothing when she's looking over her barely breathing husband in the ICU, the man who stood by her all this time and she wasn't there to defend him when he needed her. You touched on this in season 1, but it doesn't go anywhere because she saves him and no one's injured. Imagine if she was shit-talking him while he was fighting for his life, and the realization of this drives her over the edge. She goes dark. She starts killing everybody on her way to Moxie's dad with the aid of Blitz, the pair of them preparing to execute the man who hurt her husband before Loona bursts through the door and reveals a barely conscious Moxie, who forced his way to his house from his hospital bed once Loona told him what Millie was doing. He breaks her out of her bloodlust and stops her from becoming a monster that's far too gone, killing for the sake of killing. So they spare his dad, not before having him arrested by the authorities, finally able to reach him and lock him up due to his army having been crippled by Millie. That way, the bad guy gets defeated but not killed. Millie and Moxie complete the hero's journey. You've never heard of that, have you? Blitz is there, but he's not the focus for once. Loona gets to be actually important to the story, and 2’s is not involved because why would he be? I made that storyline up in 5 minutes, lying in my bed eating toast and drinking my milk because mother says it will make my bones strong. I don't think I have bones. Story creation isn't hard. Getting the story noticed is. There is so much you can still do with Millie while she's pregnant and after she has a child. Hell, have Moxie's dad kidnap her child and almost kill her husband. How powerful would that be? Just don't waste this, Vivzie. I know you will because you don't like female characters. You don't like Stella or Octavia or Millie because they aren't 2’s or Blitz. I hope Brandon can fix this mess you've created. You want to make it so that Moxie and Millie fight about the pregnancy even though it's total bullshit. Fine, I can't stop you. She's going to fall out with Moxie because she's insecure about the baby and he thinks he's doing something wrong. I've seen it so many times in so many movies. They'll break up for a bit before finally realizing that they love each other and that's more important and they were both wrong, and I've seen it so many times. It's gonna be such a convoluted mess and it's gonna have no meaning for anyone because it's gonna be so unbelievably contrived. You watch, her arc is gonna play out exactly like that, or similar to that. Just like the 2’s arc played out exactly like everyone predicted, or the Octavia arc. I guess time will tell what's next with our dear Millie, but it doesn't look good. Nothing looks good anymore. Octavia's good though, justice for my owl, she didn't deserve this writing. The next video is gonna be on her, by the way. I think I've stayed silent long enough, in a manner of speaking. But what do you think, dear viewer? Are you as pissed off about this as I am, even though I don't sound it because I'm on ADHD medication and it's very hard for me to get angry, which is why this entire script sounds like I'm talking through a blender. Do you think this was good character development for Millie? Was it forced and out of nowhere, or a natural progression for the character? That's a trick question. Let me know what you think in the comments, and also tell me what you thought of my little mini arc I came up with in the better part of 5 minutes. Honestly, I'm kind of proud of it, and kind of upset that Vivzie somehow can't do better in the year she had. Shame even a crab can outstory the woman in charge of this cesspit, but honestly that shouldn't surprise you if you've been following her work. Ah well, as long as she gets paid, I suppose. Good night humans, I'll see you all in about 2 weeks with a look into how badly they butchered my bird. If you enjoyed this video, check out the playlist showing up shortly for all the other videos I've made on the show. And I'll see you all next video.